All right, everyone, if you would go ahead and find your seats and everyone get ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you. In front of you, we're going to play, I don't say no play, but we're going to go over a little, a little professional development here for each of us and communicate. We've had a little bit of turnover this year where we have some retirees, and we're happy for those folks. And we also are, we got a lot of new faces here. And so I thought this little old school game is going to be very beneficial for us today just to get things started. If you'll look at your agenda, basically we're going to have what is called the brown bag game, and then we're going to go over the bloodborne pathogens in the Region 10 material, and so that I just feel comfortable with that and going over it just to make sure versus everyone just kind of reading through there and skipping through the end and passing the test. And of course sexual harassment, and then the bullying material if we have time today. If not, we'll pick that up tomorrow as we're starting. But what you'll find in front of you, and I'll explain the game or explain this concept here a little bit. In front of you is going to be everyone gets cards, so everyone has pretty much envelopes, and also in front of you on every desk is a basically a bunch of markers. You have map colors, and you have the index cards, and of course pens and pencils. And so here's what we're going to do. On your envelope, I don't want a name on here. This is supposed to be totally anonymous. That's why everything is exactly the same. Draw an animal that represents you, or an animal you like, or your favorite animal. Draw the animal on there, so that's going to basically be your name. So your animal is going to be your name, and you'll be able to recognize your own drawing. And then also, for anonymous, name your animal. So let's go ahead and get that started right now, and then I'll continue talking while y'all are figuring out your animal names. And it's just the anonymity of it all is basically the big purpose of this, and I want everyone to feel comfortable about putting some of this stuff down here. So what we're going to do is on your envelope, and then where your animal is, or on the back of the envelope, somewhere on the outside of the envelope, you need to put down a situation or a couple of situations that you need help on. And maybe it's how to start bell ringers, or maybe it's classroom management, or maybe it's getting along with coworkers, or maybe it's you're having some issues with discipline. Put something down there that you think that you're going to get stressed out about, or that you think is going to be something that you need some advice on. And what we'll do is once you get that on there and you have everything lined out, then what we'll do is you'll bring it up here, and that's why it's called the brown bag. I'm just going to shake it up in this big sack over here, and then I'm going to grab them, and I'm just going to pass them back out to everybody individually, and then they will go through and look at that, and then pass that around. And what you're going to do is the folks, when you get the cards, you're going to put your answer, read the envelope on the outside of the envelope, read it, write your answer down on the index card, and then put the index card inside the envelope. And then when we get done with activity, then we'll get all that together, and then we'll get that done. So let's go ahead and get started on that right now. And then of course I'll do one as well, and then we'll see how that goes. Okay, so this does not need to be an extremely long event, but I don't want to rush you either, but it's just kind of like an introductory kind of thing to kind of get things rolling. If you don't know, as you can tell, there's only there's only 7 of us here. Okay, so it shouldn't take very long for us to get that to do. Okay, I'm gonna go get some stuff off this table. I'm not a very good drawer, I can tell you that right now. And I never won a contest a day in my life, I don't guess. So what I did was Mascot the Eagle. So that's kind of backwards in there, but I'm just going to let you know it's Mascot the Eagle. So, yeah. Oh my goodness. All right, everyone have that? All right, so let's bring those over here and then we'll shuffle them up. And thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so shuffle them up here. We've got several different examples. All right, and we'll pass those back out. All right, well. Give everybody just a few minutes to get that together, and hopefully it'll be something we can do or use in the upcoming year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, is that everybody's? All right, so when we get done today and we leave, go ahead and just, when you walk by, they'll be over here by the table here, and y'all can walk by and pick them up. Just be sure you grab the right drawing and the name of your drawing animal, so that you can do that. And hopefully everything, hopefully you got some good suggestions, and that it might be some ideas you use, or if not, it might be a suggestion that sparks an idea for you. So I hope this little thing was, something to help out or whatever, and not something that you just found as a waste of time. But some of the smallest things that we do is often some of the things that are the most profound for us. So, all right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the bloodborne pathogens. That's the main thing that we're doing today. And then we're going to go over sexual harassment second. And then maybe if we have enough time, we'll go over some of the bullying stuff, and I think those are all relevant issues of today, and we have to do it every year. So just be sure that we follow along today, and we try to make this as painless as possible. But you know that these are things that we take for granted, but have a big effect on us, especially in these areas like bloodborne pathogens. And so basically, the purpose of this model or little module that we're doing here is to educate staff members that might not necessarily be in the science field or medical field for that matter, to exposure about pathogens and our control plans to prevent the spread and diseases, because flu season and stuff like that has a big effect on it. So just be sure that that's the main purpose of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so there you go. Yeah, hold on. Sorry about that. All right. So, all right. So you have bloodborne pathogens, and it's important for you to know the dangers and the types of diseases that we have. How to protect yourself from catching and spreading diseases, and keeping the kids from doing it too. So we'll go over the exposure plan, methods to control exposure from body fluids, and so that's what we're doing today. Is we're just providing a specific training. So with everyone having their laptops, they'll be looking at a lot of the same material that I'm looking at right here. And so we'll talk about the locations of protective equipment, special procedures, and procedures to follow in case we actually do have an exact emergency, which everybody will have, and should be on your packet beside the door, as we always have posted all that. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is HIV, or hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. So hepatitis B and C, these diseases can be spread by contact with blood or other body fluids. Okay, and so the three main ones are the hepatitis that I talked about: the B virus, the C virus, and of course the HIV virus, which is very well known. Okay, and so so hepatitis B, or we actually call it HP or HBV. Okay, HBV, and so with HBV or hepatitis B, pretty simple stuff. About 100,000 people are infected with it. So pretty much that's 1 out of every 5 people. So it's an astounding odd. And so, but the hepatitis B, it affects the liver. And so basically through many years of it, what it does is it'll cause you to have a liver transplant. And so that's the main effect of it. So blood, saliva, semen, it lives up for 7 days in these things. So, you have to be careful about what you're doing and what you're around when you see blood, and be sure you follow the protocols. Always wear your safety equipment. We do have vaccinations for this type of material, but just be sure that the best vaccination is always to be preventative. Okay, so just be sure you understand those concepts there. All right, so that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions? Again, blood, saliva, semen, basically a body fluid. I don't know about breast milk, but maybe breast milk. I'm not for certain. So that's something that you might want to look up. I wouldn't think so, but I don't know. The next thing is we're going to talk about hepatitis C. And that is HCV, the hepatitis C virus. What is it? Well, it's basically the same thing. Hepatitis B might be curable, but hepatitis C is not. There's about 4 million people infected with hepatitis C. About 1 in 20 people don't even know that they have it. And so, you know, because what it does is it takes years and years and years for you to ever even kind of have any kind of symptoms that pop up on hepatitis C. It's like a 40-year-old or a 20 or 30-year-old virus that eventually kills the liver, and then you don't even know you have it. But basically, it's about 20 years, and around 9,000 people get killed every year from it. So again, same thing as hepatitis B, blood, saliva, semen, those kind of things, any kind of body fluid that can do that. So you have to have special preventative tools for all kinds of things. So just be sure that if there's any kind of blood, that we do the proper protocols. We sweep everything up, we get everybody away from it. You know, I'm not asking you to treat it like a nuclear exposure, but you need to be sure that we take care of everything and everybody around us when there's any kind of blood present, because no one ever knows. You can't ever be too safe. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the HIV virus. The HIV virus is the human immunodeficiency virus. But we also just call it HIV. A lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about HIV. And so there's probably around a little over 1 million people who have HIV in the United States. That's not the world, that's just in the United States. It's predicted about 40,000 people get a new case of it every year. That's astonishing. And 1 in 7 people have that. So that means that there's 8 of us here, 1 of us have AIDS. Oh my. Okay. HIV virus is a virus that's in the body. It's growing, but until it attacks you, it's just an HIV virus. Once it attacks the human, or it attacks its host that it's in, it turns from HIV to AIDS. It can be transferred through small cuts and abrasions, unprotected sex, recreational drug use, blood, semen, saliva, and vaginal secretions. Oh yeah, that's right. The females can give it to the guys. But a lot of times it doesn't happen. It's not in the saliva, because the saliva is a digestive juice. But be sure that we are covered up and we're maintaining everything, and all the exposure is good for all the rubber gloves and all the pricks and prongs and catches and cuts and everything else that you can get a hold of. Just have to be super, super careful. And then kind of knowing what we're doing and what we're talking about, okay? So just be sure you understand that. Just be sure that you understand that. So a couple of questions here. What diseases can be contacted? Or a couple of questions, okay. Hepatitis B and C and HIV are not nearly as risky as they used to be, because everyone who has the disease are diagnosed and taking measures to prevent the spread of the illness. And what do you think? Oh yeah, false. And people don't even know that they have it. And so just be sure you understand that. So can you get a vaccine for all of them? No, you can't. Hope you have help in an emergency. No. So just be sure that you practice the right protocols, okay? So there you go. So the next thing we're going to talk about in this is the control plan. So we're going to do about our school's little exposure control plan. So if you are exposed to it, what are you going to do, and who are you going to talk to? The first thing you need to do is contact me. That's the first thing if you have any kind of doubts or worries. And then we'll take the necessary steps there for whatever that we have to do. We need to break down parts of the pans, the protective equipment. So be sure we have the protective equipment, precautions, and in case of exposure, what do you need to do? Okay. All right, the purpose of the plan, everybody is Okay, so the purpose of the plan is basically to understand what we're doing when you're doing it. Be sure you have all your protective gear and you know what to do in case of an emergency. Okay, so here's some precautions. So we need to understand that we have our personal protective equipment when we're doing this. We're going to do our best stuff to be vaccinated. It says housekeeping controls, so we're going to do our best job to keep everything clean, and we're going to try to keep everything dry. So, so basically we all go by the same little template, which is the OSHA template. So, and OSHA kind of controls all that stuff and any business or organization from the shipping yard all the way to the oil change company. OSHA pretty much does all the bloodborne pathogens and communication and standards that you can have with any of these links. So if you don't know anything about OSHA, you might want to look at it. Okay. All right. So what happens in an emergency? So right after the emergency, you should notify the custodial staff to come by and clean up any spills. Your main job as teachers is to be sure you give them space, get everybody else back and protect everybody, and then they'll come by and they'll clean up the body fluid. I don't care if it's throw up or if it's blood or whatever it is, and they'll come by and clean it up. If you guys have to leave the classroom, hey, that's fine. We'll put you somewhere that people can feel safe. And if it gets on their clothes, we'll take care of that at the time being. Just make sure that we keep it away from their body, and be sure we throw it away in the right container. All right, and the custodial staff will be trained on that and where to go, but we just need to make sure that we do that, okay? And also, just to prevent yourselves, be sure that you get your vaccinations. It helps prevent that kind of stuff from happening and touching you. But I mean, basically, I don't know about hepatitis C or HIV. No one really knows for certain on those, but you can get vaccinated for hepatitis B. But it is offered here at in your school district, so be sure you get that done. All right, next we're going to talk about personal equipment here that should be used. So the most common used one that we have is the plastic gloves or the disposable gloves. And that's not, if you're in the science lab, sure. We have those things in the science lab, but in some of those other places, you might not have them just in your normal reading classroom, So nothing there. Yeah, that's fixed to say. That's why it's just important to contact the office, contact the custodial staff, say that we have something there. And if you want to do all that, you can. If you want to put on the gloves, you'll need to go do some glove training so that you know how to take off the gloves and put the gloves on. There is a method on that. You put the gloves on, but when you take them off, you have to reach inside the glove. You grab the tip of it and you roll it out so that you never touch the outside of the glove ever. And so that's what what you're doing. Then after that, you scrub down. So that's pretty much easy there. If we have to give CPR and you don't want to, mouth to mouth can transfer diseases. So what you want to do is be sure that you use your protective mouthpiece and put it over their face and their mouth, and be sure that we know where that's at all times. And so we have one by the defibrillator, especially the one in the cafeteria, and there's one here in the hallway by my office. But we need to get those things. What you have to do is get them out yourself. That's all there is to it, in case someone's not here. So you should always know where all the personal protective equipment is. You always know where it's at. Be sure it's drawn in your mind. If you don't know, we need to go find it. It's pretty easy to see because everything's out there. But you have just be sure you know where you can get it and be there. Okay. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the exposure part here. Well, what we can do here is be sure we wash our hands really solid with soap and water. A lot of scrubbing, a lot of going back and forth. If you can't use water and soap, then some kind of sanitizer, witch hazel, alcohol, hydrogen peroxide. Just splash it around there, and then we'll follow the exposure control plan for blood and other body fluids. Is you'll have to go to the doctor. We'll have to get you tested. And so basically that's it. We'll do blood tests, we'll do treatments, we'll follow up. If you need counseling, we'll get some counseling because it could be a severe issue. I don't think it's an issue at this school. We're not a very big school. So, but that doesn't mean that something can't happen. Always be able to protect yourself. So, but that's it for the exposure control plan. So let's talk about rules. Every day you're going to possibly be exposed to a bloodborne pathogen. Children, their family, you never know. Kids can get it and never know it. There's learned risks here, and you have to prevent them for these particular instances. And so what we're going to do is we'll look at a couple of potential scenarios and figure out how to handle them. And so that's what we're going to do. Okay. A student raises her hand in the middle of your lesson to inform you she has a nosebleed. Her friend has already grabbed her some tissues and a small pool of blood is collecting on her desk. What steps do you do to prevent the spread of a bloodborne pathogen? Okay, and so, basically, what would you do? Let's see. Do you ask the student to hold tissues on her nose? No. Do you ask someone to throw away bloody tissues? No. All right. Do you help the student control the bleeding themselves? Possibly. You don't use a rag. You insure them. And pretty much that's it. So, anyway, but let's see. So what would we do? We would maybe put on PPEs, maybe. Okay. Contact the appropriate personnel to help with cleanup of the desk and the tissues. Okay. So we do that, and then ensure all surfaces have been properly cleaned prior to reuse and wash hands thoroughly. So I think all those are good answers, and so that's what we need to do. And so now the next thing is your grading papers at your desk. When a student approaches you complaining about a stomach ache, before you can write her a note to the nurse, she throws up in your trash can, splashing both your desk and your shoes. What steps should you take to prevent the spread of bloodborne pathogens? So move the trash to the hallway for the rest of the day. No, contact the appropriate personnel. I don't know if we should but what we do there. Here's the last one. During recess, a student trips on the playground and cuts up his knee. His knee is bleeding. You don't have the first aid kit or any PEs with you on the playground. What steps should you take to prevent the spread of bloodborne pathogens? All right, so you send somebody for the first aid and the PPE kit. All right, we want to move away kids. Contact appropriate personnel to help with the cleanup. Um, so that's it. So that's what we do. So move other students away from the injury, contact appropriate personnel to help with the cleanup, and then ensure all surfaces have been properly cleaned prior to the reuse and wash hands thoroughly. So that's pretty much what it is, okay? After sending a student to the bathroom, he walks back to your class with a deep cut on his finger from slamming it in the door, okay? So he's left the trail of blood from the bathroom to your classroom. When he takes pressure off the cut, it bleeds profusely. What steps can you take to prevent the spread of bloodborne pathogens? All right, so you put on your stuff, ask the student to apply pressure to his injury, possibly. We want to alert the administrators about the hallway. Control. Contact the appropriate personnel, and then ensure all surfaces are done again. So alright, so we want to do that. So alright, so we want to do that right there. So alright. So now that we have that one done, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to now we're going to start with sexual harassment. So we'll get the sexual harassment going, and then hopefully we'll have a few minutes here, and then we'll get that rolling. All right, so sexual harassment. All right, so this will probably be the last one for today, and so we'll see if we can. All right, let's go back to objective 1. Identify what sexual harassment is, basic understanding of the laws and different types of sexual harassment. Understand how Title IX protects students from sexual harassment. So, what is harassment? All right, threatening to cause bodily harm or injury, engaging in sexually intimidating conduct, causing physical damage or property, physically confining or restraining someone, or maliciously taking any action that substantially harms another person's physical, emotional health, or safety. All right, so that's pretty much what that is out of the book. All right. All right. So here's a couple of stories I want to say. Google employees across the world staged a walkout protesting the lack of transparency of sexual harassment claims against its executives. That was at Google. Okay. Students have accused a sociology faculty member at the university of sexual harassment. It is reportedly by students that harassment had been going on for over a decade. When the faculty member in place of authority, students were afraid to cross her or fear of their future careers, since she had the ability to make their lives difficult. And that said her. Okay, so we're going to go to story 3. The lawsuit is moving forward to Florida against a principal who was accused of sexually harassing a teacher. The principal in question had a disciplinary history of the similar issues, so we didn't learn from our mistakes. All right, some court cases here. I got 3 of them for you. There was a school that was sued by the mother of a 7-year-old who had been verbally harassed by peers. She was the youngest person to win such a lawsuit. Well, that's not even, I don't even know why I put that in there. That's just a discrimination case. That's my fault. There was a district who found to not be taking the reasonable steps to ensure that students were not subject to sexual harassment. They had been mandated steps to complete in order to help future students. So that is a law thing that we have to take care of. So that's that. So the next thing that we want to do is types of harassment. The first one is quid pro quo. In this case, the sexual harassment is when a person in power influences or receives favor from someone under their authority. You have a hostile environment, and then you have gender biased. And so unwanted hugging, kissing, rubbing, whatever that might be. And then gender bias is unwelcome conduct based on the student's sex, harassing conduct based on the student's failure to perform a sexual stereotype. So there you go. All right, so next we're going to go to some legal issues. Okay, so we're going to go through the federal law. Sexual harassment can exist if a hostile environment has created where unwelcome sexually harassing conduct is so severe. Federal law sexual harassment rights and protections are covered under Titles 9 or Title 6 and 7 of the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and Titles 5 and 9 of the Education Amendment 1972. Okay. All right, so that's federal law. Let's talk about Texas law. Okay. If a person under cover of their office intentionally subjects another to misconduct for sexual harassment, they have the rights and have violated the law. Consequences for the law: a fine not to exceed $4,000, jail time not to exceed 12 months, or both. Be aware authorities can also independently file criminal charges against either students or school district personnel for sexual harassment and assault. Okay, so that's that. Let's go to Title 9. So under Title 9, Title 9 protects all students from sexual harassment. That's from school employees, students, and then anybody outside the school area. It can be sexual in nature. It has to be unwelcome and denies or limits a student's ability to participate in an educational program. Making sexual propositions, touching on sexual nature, sexual visuals, sexual jokes, spreading sexual rumors are all parts of sexual conduct. And so there you go. Let's talk about responding to sexual harassment. You can make a formal complaint. There can be an informal complaint. And there must be an investigation of what's going on when someone observes it or reports it. Okay, whether it be of the party or a third party. Okay, the punishment must be reasonable, prompt, age appropriate, and effective. Okay, the punishment's directly related to the victim. So that's what a school must do. Title 9 protects all students from harassment from any school employee, another student, or another third party. So there you have it. All right, so let's talk about reporting and preventing sexual harassment. Okay, reporting: issue a policy against sex discrimination, adopt and publicize grievance procedures, and have a Title IX coordinator. All that we do have, everything there is solid, and so we want to do that. Anyone who sees the harassment occur can report it. Harassment should be reported to someone like a teacher, a principal, a faculty member, administrator, security officer, or the Title IX coordinator. But most of the time around here, it's going to be a faculty member, administrator. So you can always take note of that. All right, so let's talk about a couple of scenarios to finish up the day, and then we'll see what we got going on. Okay, I can't believe that my boss kept asking me out. I'm not interested and have said no, but it keeps happening. What is this? Is this harassment? Is this being misinterpreted? Or I don't know. Okay, and so this is harassment. Okay, you are correct if you picked harassment, or if you didn't know, if you were misinterpreting that. But if it is over and over and over again, that's the definition of harassment. And so he shouldn't ask that to begin with, but that's what it is. Okay, so let's go to scenario 2 right quick. I used to enjoy eating lunch in the break room. Lately, though, I'm not comfortable as other teachers are making comments about what I must look like without a shirt during a workout. It was funny at first, but now it's not. What do I do? Tell them to stop, talk to your manager, just eat elsewhere. And so you can talk to the manager. That is a good step. They are able to talk to other teachers if you're not comfortable with that. Another thing is that you need to stand up for yourself. I'd say the most important thing is tell them to stop talking about you like that. And so, whether it's a boy or a girl or whatever situation it may be. Okay, so that's what that is. And so let's go to our final scenario. I'm the receptionist at the school, and I have to interact with all the deliveries. There is one person who keeps asking me out and bringing in treats. I am not interested, but I do not know what to do. Okay, do you tell them to stop? Yes, you need to tell them to stop. You need to quit inviting them, or whatever it is that you're not doing, or you might be doing, who knows. But you need to be verbal and say, hey, look, here's the line drawn. You do this right here again, and then I'm going to have to report you. Okay, and then of course you can always talk to the manager, and hopefully the manager will take care of that, or maybe get a guy rerouted. He can go somewhere else. And so that's pretty easy steps to take. So there you go. As I said, we're still going to go over a couple more of these throughout tomorrow too. I don't want to just give you a whole bunch, because it's basically just me doing some talking or whatever else, and I try to get through those pretty quick. And we did do 2 of them pretty quick, and then tomorrow we'll have some quick ones as well. I just wanted to make sure that when we leave here in a minute, and we break for lunch, that you go ahead and pick up your stuff right there. And so don't forget your envelopes. All right, and so whatever those envelopes may be, be sure you pick them up. I picked mine up. I hope y'all didn't beat me up too much on mine, and there you go. And so that way everybody can just sit back and have a good time. All right, do we have any questions out there before I release you and let you go? All right, no questions. Pretty much a good afternoon here. All right, well, when you come back from your class, just be sure, or when you come back from lunch, remember you have an hour and a half, that's 90 minutes. You don't have to eat together, but if you want to, that's fine too, or we can all go out. It doesn't really matter to me what you do. I think I may have to stay here and do some extra work. But just be sure that you come back on time, and don't forget the first hour when you come back that you will have a little time to sit in your rooms or get something done or get your organizing thoughts. In that second hour, you'll be back in here with me, and then we'll do a couple more of these little Region 10 stuff that we have to do, and then I want to talk to everybody, and then we'll move on. All right, so thank you, and I'll have a good lunch.